Yes, yes. But, and in the physical body, there's this physical spot, and that's where your first, like, the first thing that happens to you is this electrical spark in your heart, and then your heart flutters, and then you're beating, and you're alive, and then from there, everything else. And I'm talking about in a fetus form. I'm not saying, like, every day you wake up and this is, how you come into consciousness. I'm saying, like, when we're made in the womb, and there's a lot of cultures that believe, like, that's when you actually are born, is when your heart sparks into reality. And then that's when your consciousness is actually in existence.
So what do you know about Rosicrucianism? Because we talked earlier and you mentioned some things that I had no idea about, and that made me quite curious.
Well, I mean, what were you talking about specifically? Like, you want some, like, backstory of what Rosicrucian is?
Well, okay, so I chased the Rosicrucian Google search box down the hole, and I came to old Chinese philosophy and Chung Fu, or Zong Fu as it's called in English, and I'm curious what that's about, because I found a book that's called The Search for the Hidden Door, and it's not in publication, and apparently there's some guy, A.C. Christopher online that has a copy of it, and I sent him an email and he responded back. I haven't called him back yet, but it's just one of those signs that if you're seeking the truth, it's available to you. It's available in many different formats. And
well, in the Rosicrucian concept, if you really want to know what down the rabbit hole means, get on your computer after this and search Rosicrucianism.
I did.
Because everybody talks about... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I did. The last time after you and I talked, I went and looked at...
Oh, no, I'm talking about in general, like anybody listening. But because I know I was listening. You said you searched it. But really, it's interesting how with Rosicrucianism, like, everybody's, like, the whole Illuminati thing, everybody's focused on the Freemasons, and then you hear, like, Rosicrucian, and it's, like, dropped in, or, the, not Hell's Bells, but it was the order that Thomas Jefferson was a part of, like the Hellions or something. It was some, there was a lot of barbaric banter about it because there was sex and, drinking and drugs. But, Thomas Jefferson was a really brilliant man. So you might want to think about that when it comes to that. But it's interesting because you look at Freemasonry, and one thing, like, I have an issue with, and I respect Masonry in all its components, but now it's become a very big boys' club. Well, Rosicrucianism is a very broad way of practice. So Rosicrucianism originates from the old traditions of Egypt, Babylon, and Atlantis. And, the actual first Rosicrucian organization, it gets very complicated because
here's my problem with that. Like, if their shit is so secret, I should say this. If it's so special and it's so important, then why is it so secret? And why?
Well, think about this. Think about this.
Okay.
Imagine the world is not duality. There is no good and evil. There is only choice of existence. So if you got to a point where you could, in the simplest ways, it's like magic. To just say the word magic. Now, I like to say magic with a K, because what I do when I add that K is I'm adding a word to your definition. I'm adding a different thought process than magic with a C. Because the truth is, magic with a K isn't something I'm making up. It's something that Aleister Crowley actually produced. And then it's been used by following practitioners after that. And the reason it's used, because it helps people understand that there is magic with a sleight of hand and illusions, but there's also the practice of magic with a K, which is rituals, ceremonies, and sacramental works, and prayer, meditation. I mean, even exercise can be a form of magic. And it's proven by some of the Russian studies and even American studies that talk about telekinesis. Because the best way to describe what magic means in definition is the practice of will. So you are an observer. You are a consciousness. When you will your hand to grab a pencil and write, it grabs a pencil and writes. When you stub your toe in the morning, and this goes into quantum physics, you stub your toe in the morning, you release the chemicals of anger, you feed that chemical with vibration, which triggers the release of the chemicals. By the way, chemicals are vibrations. The vibration of atoms create the compound of the actual chemical structure. So you are literally willing your reality. Well, magic with a K teaches you that you can learn how to know that will and figure out that the will is not your mind, it's not your personality, it's not your individualism, it's the all that acts through you because you are a piece in a larger puzzle. And that's kind of what Rosicrucianism really has for its secrets. And the biggest problem is it's not so much that the secrets are kept because, people don't deserve it or this or that. And nowadays there are those who say that, don't cast your pearls before swine. And the reason is because the reality, if somebody's not ready to hear something, it's like the Orgonite. If somebody's not ready to know, they're not going to get it. And so that's why for me, I'm not really big on the whole concept of secret, because if you ain't going to understand it, I can tell. When talking to somebody, it's like, if you're completely just like, what are you saying? Then I'm just like, oh, it's okay, And then you go back to the human condition or I like to say man, the material man, and just treat them with respect, because the reality is we're all children. And whether you see this quantum physical spiritual reality and how it's really there and that's what we exist in, or you don't see it, it doesn't matter because we're all learning, right?
We are. Let's hope so. I sure hope I am.
Yeah, we all make our mistakes.
As long as we learn from them, then it's all worth it. Like, let's just hope some of us are paying attention and taking notes, because it's important. These conversations are important. The stuff on MTV is not. The stuff on the radio is not. It's just, that's meant to distract us. That's why we are so out of tune, because we're paying attention to that bullshit. But
have you ever heard of Project Blue Book?
I have, yeah. So, yes, I have.
So there's some of those guys who have the theories with the gray aliens and how all of the distractions, they're designed to create and trigger emotions, which are frequencies that interdimensional beings feed off of. What do you think about that?
I am still open to the multitude of realities that are most likely true. I haven't yet figured out which one is the real truth. Aliens and the grays, I'm sure there is some truth to that, but I am so nowhere near close enough to having the kind of understanding I would need to in order to comment on that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Oh, no, and I completely agree. As far as that goes, I'm a parrot reiterating information. Because it's just, I've never seen a gray alien. You know what I'm saying?
My biggest fascination with aliens and that whole thing it would probably be crop circles, and how, you know, that shit is impossible unless you are of higher intelligence, because, you know, those farmers aren't out doing those things with boards and ropes. So there's something otherworldly going on, whether it's alien grays or earth vibrations coming out of like certain little conduits of the planet that happen to be in farmers' grass fields or whatever. I don't know.
So what are you saying with that? I haven't heard that one.
With what?
You were saying little sections of earth conduits. Like basically what you're saying is that, you know, like the sinkholes that open up because of the vibrational shifts of the physical matter.
Well, yeah, you know, like just like our bodies. So when we get a fever, we sweat through our foreheads and temples the most, and when, you know, physical exertion happens, we feel it through our back. Earth has the same kind of system, just in its own dynamic, unique kind of way. And we know some of those energy zones as like, let's see, the Bermuda Triangle, or the ozone hole that we call it over the South Pole. There are different zones of Earth that we don't understand why the energies are the way they are. They are aberrant. Yeah, the pyramids, Sedona. I mean, there's a whole different thing. That's a whole nother 10 volumes of things like that you could talk about there. But there are those places on Earth where the energy is different, and it's coming out of some kind of portal, whether it's from the center of our planet or from another dimension. Those places exist, and yeah, so
that's always tripped me out about interdimensionality. It's like, when you start to study it, you're like, if I walk down the wrong road, I could be like just shifted into a completely horrible dimension. Because logically, that's what starts to become the rationale, is like all that it takes to step in and out of dimensions is to step. It is to move. It is to speak. It is to make any choice of action from the will upon this existence. You know, and then it's like the dimensions are layers. You know, we talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's like we're not counting the infinite in between. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you know, from where I'm sitting right now, my best hope is that I can be at peace with all that I know and possibly understand it well enough to be able to give some of that understanding to somebody else who doesn't yet know that, so that they may grow and I may be inspired by their growth and possibly grow some more, so that we may all, as one entity on this giant spaceship we call Earth, figure it out one day and like stop destroying the planet and live in harmony and be happy, not need to pay bills, and like live off the earth and thrive and be happier than we knew was possible. Like, that's what I'm going for, and that's why.
Well, it's funny you say that.
So,
because I completely agree. I actually think that right now, like I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about, is it really worth it in the overall scheme? Like, if we're just pieces of a puzzle, there's no point for one of us to completely evolve into as a selfish individual, you know, evolve into enlightenment. It's got to be a collective. You know, it just, I don't know, for me, it logically doesn't make sense for one individual to see the possibilities, but, I don't want to share it with everybody else.
Totally. So All right, so since I need to be selfish and I want to plug my website for Orgonite and say it's